Hello, and welcome to this video on sentence structures for describing line graphs. I'm Surya, and today we will explore different sentence structures to describe trends effectively. Understanding sentence structures is essential for organizing data in a structured and precise way. In this video, we will look at examples of upward, downward, fluctuating, and stable trends. Using a range of structures enhances clarity and can contribute to a higher band score in writing exams. Let's get started. In the previous two videos, we explored essential vocabulary to describe line graphs and a line graph model description. In this video, we will focus on the sentence structures you can use to present trends. Before watching this video, it's important to understand the vocabulary needed to describe different trends. This was explained in the video Essential Vocabulary to Describe Line Graphs. In that video, we also discussed common introductory verbs such as shows, illustrates, and compares to set the context for describing graphs. Another video provided a step-by-step explanation of how to describe a line graph. You are advised to watch those two videos first and then return to this one. The links to those videos are provided in the comment section. Now that we have covered how to introduce a line graph, let's focus on describing trends. Trends in line graphs can show increases, decreases, fluctuations, or stability. To describe these effectively, we can use different sentence structures that enhance clarity and coherence. Let's explore these structures with examples. Here are three commonly used structures for describing trends. One example for each is taken from the model description in the previous video, line graph model description. The first structure follows a noun plus verb plus adverb pattern. For example, laptop sales dropped considerably over the given period. The second structure uses there plus be plus article adjective noun combination. For example, there was a substantial increase in smartwatch sales. The third structure describes trends using experienced, saw, witnessed. For instance, smartphones experienced considerable fluctuations in sales. Now let's examine the full model description. Your task is to identify other examples of these sentence structures. Here is a full model description of the line graph. The three example sentences from the previous slide are already highlighted. If you are not sure about the structures, go back to the previous slide and review them again. Your task is to carefully read the description and find other sentences that follow these three sentence structures we just discussed. Try to note them down as you read. We will check your answers together on the next slide. Now let's check your answers. I have kept the original examples from the previous slide, but now all the sentences that match these structures are highlighted in different colors. For example, yellow represents noun plus verb plus adverb structures. Green represents there plus be plus article adjective noun structures. Similarly, pink represents subject plus experienced, saw, witnessed structures. Pause the video and read through the highlighted sentences carefully to understand how these structures are used. Take a moment to compare your findings with the highlighted sentences. Did you find all of them? Great. Understanding these structures will help you describe trends more effectively in your writing. Now let's examine the first sentence structure, which is a noun followed by a verb and an adverb. This structure helps describe how the action takes place. The examples given here are taken from the model description given on the previous slide. Let's see how we can write these sentences differently. Example 1 from the box has been used to create these three variations, keeping the same structure but changing the time expression and details. I advise you to read the sentences before we move forward. I'm sure you have noticed that correct punctuation is essential for clarity and readability in writing. It helps separate different parts of a sentence, ensuring that the meaning is easily understood. Notice these three sentences. In the first one, the time phrase appears at the end. Laptop sales dropped considerably from 20 units to 100 units between January and June. No comma is needed in this case. In the second sentence, between January and June, laptop sales dropped considerably from 20 units to 100 units. The time phrase is placed at the beginning, so a comma is required after it. In the third sentence, laptop sales dropped considerably between January and June from 20 units to 100 units. Both a time phrase and a numerical phrase are used. A comma is needed before the numerical phrase to clearly separate the two modifying elements. You can keep the course structure the same while modifying the time duration and additional details as needed to create sentences from the graphs. Now let's look at more examples that apply the same sentence structure in different contexts. The sentences on this slide are written in red to indicate that they are not from the previously given graph description. Instead, they are included to show how the same structure can be used in different situations. Pause the video and take a moment to read the sentences carefully. Now, notice the verb plus adverb combinations in these sentences. Increased significantly, rose sharply, declined steadily. Using different verbs and adverbs can help add variety and precision to your descriptions. Here are some alternatives. Instead of increase significantly, you can use grew substantially, rose considerably, or went up noticeably. Instead of rose sharply, you can say jumped significantly, climbed dramatically, or surged noticeably. Similarly, instead of declined steadily, you can say dropped gradually or fell gradually. Choosing the right verb plus adverb combination helps you express trends clearly and improves the variety in your writing. Now let's move on to the next sentence structure. Now let's analyze the second sentence structure. There, followed by a form of the verb be, an article, an adjective, and a noun, which introduces a trend or change in a subject. Usually, most line graphs represent past time periods, so we use the past form of the verb be. For example, we can start with, there was a substantial increase, or there was a sharp decline, depending on the trend being described. Read the examples given here. They are taken from the model description given on the slide previously. Let's see how we can write these sentences differently. Example 2 from the box has been used to create these three changes. I advise you to read the sentences before we move forward. Now, notice how the time phrases are positioned differently in these sentences to create variation. This small change affects how the sentence flows while maintaining the same meaning. Next, let's see how we can modify this structure to describe different trends. Here are three examples using the same sentence structure in different contexts. The sentences on this slide are written in red to indicate that they are not from the previously given graph description, but they are included to show how the same structure can be used in different situations. Pause the video here and take a moment to read these sentences carefully. Now notice the article plus adjective plus noun combinations in these sentences. A steady increase, a dramatic drop, a sharp decline. It's important to expand your vocabulary and use different adjectives and nouns for variety. For example, instead of a steady increase, you can say a gradual rise or a gradual improvement. Instead of a sharp decline, you can say a sudden decline or an abrupt decline. Similarly, instead of a dramatic drop, you can use a significant decrease or a considerable decline. Using a variety of adjectives and nouns will make your descriptions more precise and improve the quality of your writing. Now let's take a closer look at the third sentence structure. Subject followed by a verb such as experienced, saw, or witnessed, plus an adjective and a noun. Here are 3 examples based on the model description of a line graph given on the previous slide. Read the sentences carefully. Now, we will see variations of the third example sentence on headphone sales. I advise you to pause the video and take a moment to read these sentences. Now notice how the time phrases are placed in these sentences to create variation. The rest of the sentence remains unchanged, demonstrating how time expressions can be positioned differently while maintaining the same meaning. Now let's see how this structure can be modified for different contexts. Here are 3 examples using the third sentence structure, but in different contexts. Pause the video and take a moment to read them carefully. Now notice the verb plus adjective plus noun combinations in these sentences. For example, saw a moderate rise, witnessed a slight decline, experienced a gradual increase. Using different vocabulary can help make your writing more varied and precise. Here are some alternatives. Instead of saw a moderate rise, you can say observed a steady increase or recorded a marginal improvement. Instead of witnessed a slight decline, you can use reported a small drop or experienced a marginal decrease. Instead of experienced a gradual increase, you can say saw a slow rise or witnessed a steady growth. Using a variety of appropriate vocabulary is key to scoring high marks in writing. Now that we have learnt all 3 sentence structures and their variations, let's put them into practice. On this slide, you can see a line graph with a highlighted trend. Your task is to describe this trend using one or more of the 3 sentence structures we discussed. Pay close attention to the details and try to write accurately using the structures provided on the slide. Now let's check how we can describe the highlighted trend using the 3 sentence structures we discussed. Here are 3 model sentences based on the pass rate of male students between 2005 and 2006. Using the first structure, we can write, the pass rate of male students rose slightly from 70% to 75% between 2005 and 2006. Using the second structure, we can write, there was a slight rise in the pass rate of male students to 75% in 2006. Using the third structure, we can write, male students experienced a slight rise in pass rates from 70% to 75% between 2005 and 2006. Notice how each sentence structure presents the same trend but in a different way. Compare your sentences with these examples and check if you have followed the correct structure. Also, notice that instead of slight, we can use alternatives like marginal. Similarly, instead of rose, we can use increased, grew, got better, and so on. The time phrase could also be moved to the beginning to create variation. The point is to apply different and appropriate vocabulary that you learned in the video Essential Vocabulary for Line Graphs to make your writing more accurate and varied. Now let's look at another trend, this time focusing on the pass rate of female students between 2009 and 2011. Your task is to describe this trend using one or more of the 3 sentence structures we discussed. Pause the video here and pay close attention to the details and try to write accurately in your notebook using the structures provided on the slide. Hope you have already written one or more sentences in your notebook. Here are 3 model sentences demonstrating how we can describe the same trend using different structures. An example sentence using the first structure is: the pass rate of female students climbed significantly from 10% to 75% between 2009 and 2011. Using the second structure, we can write: there was a substantial increase in the pass rate of female students from 10% to 75% between 2009 and 2011. An example using the third structure is: female students witnessed a dramatic surge in pass rates from 10% to 75% between 2009 and 2011. Notice that in each sentence, the core trend remains the same, but the structure and vocabulary change. Compare these sentences with your own and check if you have used the correct sentence structures. Also, instead of climbed, we could use jumped, soared, increased. Instead of substantial, we could say considerable or sharp. The time phrase could also be moved to the beginning for a change. The key takeaway is to apply different sentence structures and use different vocabulary to achieve a high score. Look at the highlighted trend in the graph between 2007 and 2009, which is about the pass rate for male students. Your task is to write 3 sentences describing this trend using the sentence structures we have covered. Think about how stability is described and try to use different vocabulary. Take a moment to write your sentences, and on the next slide, we will review the model answers together. Now let's analyze the trend in male students' pass rates between 2007 and 2009. Unlike an increase or decrease, this trend shows a consistent pass rate of 60% throughout these years. Here are 3 model sentences demonstrating how we can describe this trend using different structures. The first sentence can be: the pass rate of male students remained stable at 60% between 2007 and 2009. If you notice, this sentence doesn't exactly fit the first structure unless we add an adjective, because phrases like remain steady, remain constant, and remain stable require an adjective after the word remained, not an adverb. This is because remained is a linking verb, which means it doesn't show an action, but it connects the subject to a state or condition. Adverbs usually describe the degree of change, but since stability means no change, an adverb is not needed in this case. However, if we want to indicate stability over a prolonged period, we can add an adverb before the adjective. So the sentence can be like this: the pass rate of male students remained consistently stable at 60% between 2007 and 2009. So this sentence exactly fits the structure. Next, Using the second structure, we can write, there was no noticeable change in the pass rate of male students, staying at 60% from 2007 to 2009. Using the third structure, we can say, male students experienced a stable trend in pass rates at 60% from 2007 to 2009. Notice how each sentence presents the same trend differently while keeping the meaning intact. Compare your sentences with these examples and check if you have followed the correct structure. Before we conclude, remember that these are the basic sentence structures you can use to describe trends in line graphs. First, get the structure right. Then add the necessary details such as numbers, percentages, and time duration as needed. Also keep in mind that the time phrase can be positioned either at the beginning or the end of the sentence. Now look at the example sentences to see how the same trend is described using different sentence structures. Practice using these structures and adjust them based on the graph's data. Using a variety of sentence structures can improve your IELTS writing score. That's the end of this video. Now you have seen how a single trend can be described in multiple ways using different sentence structures. It's important to remember that there isn't just one way to describe a trend. You can use different sentence structures and appropriate vocabulary to describe the same data. The information you have learned here can help you think about how to reword information effectively. By using different sentence structures and a good range of vocabulary, your writing will be clearer, more flexible, and more effective. And it can also improve your IELTS Writing Task 1 score. Thank you for watching, and I hope you keep practicing with different trends and data sets. All the best for your studies, and see you in the next video.